All right, so the last short I did was on SDVs, aka software-defined cars. Sorry, software-defined vehicles. And at the end of that short, I said I was going to do a full video on it, and I found that the best way I could do that was to make a reaction video. This is the first ever reaction video on the Petrol List, so I'm still kind of learning how to do it. So bear with me. Without further ado, we're going to get into one, and this video is software-defined cars require new design approach, and this is from the Detroit Auto Show in 2022, and it's brought to you by Autoline on the Road. Let's get started now.
By Magna.
Martin Fisher is one of the board members with the supplier company ZF, and I know you're heavily into this whole thing called...
So really quick, ZF or ZF as we say here in the States, like you said, it's a supplier company. Basically, they manufacture a lot of parts. Matter of fact, a 2015 Jaguar that I had a few years back had... pardon me, had a ZF 8-speed automatic gearbox, and I actually liked it. I'm not an automatic transmission person, but I enjoyed that transmission for what it was. It was a torque converter transmission, not some kind of fancy dual clutch, but it snapped into place really well and responded to RPM inputs really well as well. Maybe I could say as well more times.
The software-defined car. Easy question to begin with here, Martin. What the heck is a software-defined car?
I think it's software bringing really new life to all this fine product here on the floor at NIAS. And for us means we can really create better value. That value is both for the consumer, but it's also sitting under the hood, and it's also for commercial purposes. So new functionality overall that we can create through software.
And is it...
So I want to touch on that value. So the value to the manufacturer is going to be financial. It's a lot cheaper to create a brake-by-wire parking brake. That's why you see a lot of them these days. You push the button or you pull a little tab and the brake turns on, because instead of routing an entire mechanical system through the vehicle, which means that you have to think ahead in your research and development phase so that you can package that physical lever, pull it up, and have it routed via linkage to the back brakes of the car. Now you just have a little button, bzz, and it goes through a wire, and that wire goes to a little servo, and it clamps on your brakes, easy peasy, and you don't have to think about the architecture. Whole lot cheaper, so the value monetarily goes to the manufacturer, and the perceived value goes to you, the consumer, because instead of using your whole arm to pull that lever, now you get to use your little finger to flick a switch, but when it comes time to repair, you're going to be paying the piper.
Designing in software, controlling things in the car by software, all of that.
It's all of that, and really it starts for us with a completely new philosophy when we think technology and design products. So we now say software first, digital always. So that guides our troops to really think, how are these new functions coming to life?
So as your engineers sit down to work on the different components and you make a lot of different things, how is it different designing for a software-defined vehicle versus the old mechanical ones?
Yeah, I mean, you start thinking really where can the value be generated, and data plays really a big role. So think about our systems today, all the...
So what this really means to me, is if you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. You get what I'm saying? It is a solution looking for problems to solve. So we've got all this data that we're collecting, and now we need to figure out how we can kind of mold it into a feature that people will pay for, into a feature that we can market, that we can put on commercials. it's no longer about what's good for the consumer. It's we have all this stuff. How do we compress it into a pill that the consumer will swallow at a fee?
Sensors, they drive around and collect tons of data. And part of that new thought process, software first, digital always, is to consider what can we make out of the data. So give you a consumer's example, right? All our ADAS systems, the advanced driver assist systems, would have their cameras and sensors around. So when you
I want to pause really quickly on this diagram. Imagine, if you will, sensors in every body panel, especially, the front and rear bumpers. If you get into a fender bender, it's no longer going to be a piece of plastic or fiberglass or steel or aluminum, and you go to a junkyard and you find a replacement and you pop it off with some nuts and bolts and you put it back on with some nuts and bolts. Now there's going to be a ton of wires. There's going to be a ton of cameras. There's going to be a ton of sensors that you're going to have to replace as well. That means that the bumper is no longer going to be, $150, $200. It's going to be $2,000, and it's going to need to be configured either by the dealer or a licensed repair shop with all the proprietary software that it's going to take to reconfigure and recalibrate that bumper, and that is going to cost you a song.
Drive through town, these sensors can spot a lot of things. And one of these functions we have created is community-based parking. So the sensors are going to spot where are the parking lots. We will have that information being uploaded to the cloud and then can give it to an app to consumers of that very brand, but also broader. And here you see, right, it starts really with the car, with the sensors, and you create value that you can monetize then through that software and intelligence.
I love that. So instead of driving around like I did this morning looking for a parking spot,
check the app.
Check the app and it'll tell me right where to go.
That's the idea.
Okay, now that is going to take a lot of doing to work, and here's what I mean by that. There is a natural organic flow already built in to looking for a parking space. Say there are 5 of you in a parking lot and you're looking for parking. I'm the first one there. I'm looking for a parking spot. I don't see parking, so I keep going. I'm already somewhere far, far away in the parking lot. Second person, they don't see the parking. Third person, they see somebody with their reverse lights pulling out of the space. They put on their signal, person leaves, and they pull into that space. And there's little conflict because me and the driver behind me have already scattered to the winds, and that person is left to park in peace. Now, say the 5 of us have our apps, which is more people looking at their phones or looking at their center consoles while driving, which is problematic in and of itself. But say we all get alerted at the same time, there's a parking space. And then we all, hit the button on our phone, route me to that parking space. We're speeding, trying to get to that parking space. We all converge on the same parking space at the same time. And now we've got to figure out, okay, who is there first? Who gets the parking space? Is everybody in this little group of parking seekers altruistic? And are they going to let the person who first arrived there first take the parking space? Is there going to be something on the app that says, well, you were the fourth one to be alerted, so you're the fourth one in line for that parking space? Will the other drivers honor that? Imagine now you're in a bigger parking scenario like a ball game or a horse race or something. Now you've got 20, 50, 100 people all looking for that one parking space at the same time. They're all converging on that parking space. I don't have to paint the picture. You can see how that is a bit problematic, more problematic actually than hunting and pecking for your own parking space.
Great example. Any others?
Sure, you can go all over the place, right? That was consumers. Think about commercial products. When we think about our commercial vehicle fleet, we're pretty active in trailers. We have a function that's called Trailer Cast, which is basically a connectivity solution by the truck trailers to the cloud, to the fleet operators, and so on. And here's now all sorts of information you can provide to make sure your uptime is maximum. What's the tire pressure? Are the brakes okay? You can have a camera in and say, hey, how's my load distributed? Did the logistics folks a good...
So truck drivers are already monitored to the hilt. I don't know. I'm not a truck driver. I don't know if they want more sensors, more cameras, and all that kind of stuff, telling them how to do their job. Now, say there's a scenario where you're hauling some kind of flammable, materials and all that kind of stuff, and there have been accidents and risks and stuff, and the introduction of new sensors can help to mitigate those risks and save lives and all that kind of stuff. If that's actually the case, then I guess so be it, but I doubt that it should be for something that's used for every trailer, let alone every single passenger car.
Job packaging it into the trailer, or is there a security risk, a safety risk in the end? So all that information can be uploaded again to cloud and operators, and they will increase uptime by data again.
Great examples. Any more?
Anymore? It's getting it's
You just gave me
right?
two good ones. I know.
No, let's go under the hood.
Okay.
Because also when we think about the traditional systems, so we have a lot of suspension system, as you know, with ZF. That's the former Sachs heritage. And we have now little sensors with the suspension system that can sense road conditions.
This is the one.
As you know, with ZF, that's the former Sachs heritage. And
Let's take a look at this. This is the one that gives me the most grief, and that is putting a bunch of sensors into pieces of hardware that never used to have sensors and never really needed sensors. So if you look here, we're going to zoom in on this little sensor, and no longer is your control arm going to be, like $120. It's going to be $240, $300, $500 because now you've got a sensor in it. And it's not going to be a piece of stamped aluminum or steel with some rubber bushings in it. It's going to have to be, wired up and calibrated. It turns into that same scenario that I painted with the bumper. And the parts are just going to be outrageously expensive and outrageously complicated. And chances are they're going to have to be wired and calibrated at a place that is not your garage. So simple repairs, again, will be a thing of the past. And as many moving parts are on a car, I'm sure that you can find a way to put a sensor into each one of those.
We have now little sensors with the suspension system that can sense road conditions. And it gets bumpy at times, we know our potholes around here, and the system can sense those. So what to do with that information? Municipalities and cities are interested in knowing where's the road conditions the worst, where do we send the trucks first, but also...
Okay, so if I'm going to be sending notifications and whatnot to municipalities and cities and all that kind of stuff, I want to be compensated for that. I don't want to pay extra for a car that is laden with sensors, and then also on top of that, be doing work for the city. If anything, label the car SDV in the dealership, and then give me a little pamphlet of all the kickbacks that I'm going to get back because every mile that I'm driving is sending data to the city. Because I don't think it's fair that I would have to pay more for a car with sensors, and then also have that car connected to the city so that they can, basically have me as an unpaid employee that is tracking stuff for them.
When you think further down
Also,
the road with autonomous vehicles, our algorithms are now smart enough to know, oh, there's a pothole. I let the autonomous vehicle go in around that pothole. So yet another example, more under the hood, maybe less obvious to consumers and the commercial folks, but yet an important feature.
I just want to hit pause right here. I'm going to go back just a little bit.
To know, oh, there's a pothole. I let the autonomous vehicle go in around that pothole. So yet another example, more under the hood, maybe less obvious to consumers and the commercial folks, but yet an important.
The interviewer, I don't know if you can see his face, the interviewer looks absolutely terrified. He's smiling with his lips, but his eyes just it looks like pure concern. And he's probably sitting there thinking to himself, you know what? Let me just keep my old Dodge Charger, my 1969 Dodge Charger that was born a few years before like the microchip or whatever. He's like, this is trouble. I don't want it.
Feature.
This must have changed what you have to do internally at ZF. I mean, I'm guessing you need a lot more software engineers. What kinds of other changes have been going on?
Yeah, it's certainly building the organization for it, but it's also the leadership that we apply to that whole area. Software first, digital always, right? So we do have our digital days every single year where we encourage the organization to come up with novel ideas and showcase that up to the board of management, and then really share the good ideas to create that whole movement within the organization. So that's the internal side of it. Mm-hmm. But also when it comes to the customers, right? For us it's important that we collaborate in these spaces. And in order to do so, first of all, you got to show what you have, right? Trade show being a good chance. But also you have to create the environment, the processes, the systems that enable that collaboration. So we are today to the point that we can develop software with some of our customers on one development platform in the cloud. So the customer is going to provide functions, we integrate them with our functions and deliver a complete product out of that.
So as you're getting all these exciting ideas, putting things together differently, collaborating with your customers, where do you think, what's the next step? What's coming?
I mean, there's so much growth in that whole area, right? And it's just starting, and we have to accelerate it.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it there, and we're just gonna sign off with me and my thoughts. There's so much growth. There's so much growth in the area. I've heard that before. I came from technology. I came from tech. And when you hear there's so much growth in the area after somebody asks what's next, it just means that they don't know. They don't know what's next. It means that we've got all this data that we're collecting and we can do stuff with it, but we don't know what we're going to do with it, but we're going to keep collecting it because at some point we're going to come up with something that we can charge people for. That's what they mean by there's so much growth in this. I watched another one. I'm not going to react to that, but there was one thing that it said. It was like, in the future, we can use data to call first responders and give them more information so that they can know what they're going to need to do when they arrive on the scene. Now, I've been a first responder. A lot of the stuff that you're dealing with is when you get there on the scene, because the scene is so dynamic that you're dealing with in real time with what you're seeing. You unless it's an electric vehicle, and I was a first responder before electric vehicles were mainstream. Unless it's an electric vehicle, you don't really truly need to know that much about the vehicle or whatever. You just see something on the side of the road. Maybe it's on fire, maybe it's not. And you're just looking to see, how can I get the person to safety? How can I, stabilize them until the paramedics get here? All that kind of stuff. There's not really that much that you need to know ahead of getting there versus just getting there and dealing with the crap that you see. But the problem with that is, broadcasting, information to, authorities, to corporations, to what have you, and not knowing how that information is being used during the downtime. Because if there's something where it can help a first responder, great, I'm all about safety. But what about the other 99.9% of the time that you're on the road and all of those sensors are turned on and broadcasting all that information? Anybody? Mazda has not known where my NB Miata has been since it left the factory in Hiroshima back in 1999. They have no idea where that car is. And that's how I like it. Now, how far has software-defined vehicle stuff gone? It's still slightly in its infancy. But then again, so I've got a 2023 Bronco, and some of the stuff that you can tell is, software based, is when you get in and it takes, like it's a 5 or 10 second delay for the AC to turn on, and it's hot and you're waiting for that thing to turn on. It's like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. It cycles through whatever its booting cycle is, and then you finally get the relief of cold air blowing, on your face or whatever, so you're not melting to death in the Texas heat. We already discussed the button for the parking brake. I've got infotainment that likes to go out every second time I start the car. Sometimes I have to turn the car off, open the door to reboot the system so it can connect to my phone, for the Apple CarPlay. Those are all things that are, software defined or software derived, where, hardwired or hardware items used to be. So how did I get past that? How did I fight back on that? Well, I bought the second to just one level above the base model, because there were some things that I wanted on my vehicle that I didn't want to mess with in the aftermarket, like fog lights and a couple of other things. But as far as the sensors in the mirrors and adaptive cruise control and all those kind of things, I decided a long time ago, before I even knew what a software-defined vehicle was, that I didn't want that stuff. I just wanted, give me a cheap mirror where the only thing on it is a mirror, so that if that thing gets knocked off or I need to replace it or something sometime, it's just a $150 mirror that I can put on with a couple of screws and a couple of bolts. And I don't need to have a computer science degree to put that thing back on my truck. My seats were cloth seats. And after the fact, I put some seat covers on it. And I got to tell you, seat cover technology is super nice these days. And you would think that I bought that thing with leather seats. It's a manual transmission. There's no lane assist, because what's going to power the wheels? What powers the wheels turning back and forth for the lane assist? Sensors and servos and controllers and all that kind of stuff. And if anything goes wrong with the steering or that stuff goes wackadoodle, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay to repair it. And that is just not what I wanted for my vehicle. So, it used to be you wanted the highest end, the most luxuried out model or trim level of the vehicle that you could find. These days, in my opinion, the smart money is in the base model. The smart money is in close to base model. I don't have heated seats. I just deal with it. And guess what? It's not that much of a hardship, because I don't want someday for someone to turn off that piece of functionality and turn around and start charging me a premium or a subscription. Now, that's just like the infancy of software-defined vehicles. What's coming is a central nervous system in your car that branches out to a whole bunch of different pieces of your car that are, software-defined. And let me tell you, I've read articles that say, once fully software-defined vehicles come out where everything is just governed by a computer, there's no hardwired or hardware linkages that are going throughout your car, you'll have that car for about 10 years before it turns into a brick. The all-wheel drive system on my Bronco is software-defined. It's push button. Like right now, I like it, but once that thing starts to go out, there's no transfer case for me to just go under the car and replace. It's going to be, hopefully Ford is still supporting, the GOAT mode, all-wheel drive buttons or four-wheel drive buttons, because I won't be able to do it on my own. Now, if this stuff goes far enough and they don't go back away from software-defined vehicle-ness, then I might have to start figuring out how I can put a transfer case in. Like, I might have to start thinking about how to, put just an old school V8 and a transfer case into the shell of the Bronco that I'm driving so that I can have that car for a while. I don't, knock wood, I don't really plan on buying new vehicles, and it's not because I don't think that some of them are cool. I'm seeing the writing on the walls, and I think that these things are going to be a bit problematic. All right. That was uplifting. So this is my first reaction video. Let me know if you liked it. It is Formula One summer break, so it just gives me time to explore different ideas and stuff. And to me, this was exciting to do a reaction video. And if you like it, there are just a ton of different things I can react to. All right. I've been Dalton. This has been The Petrolist, and you have been great. I'm not sure why I left the sunglasses on. It just seemed like for a reaction video, it felt appropriate. So that's what I did. All right. I will see you guys next time. I'm out.